Tonight, crowd control. Frantic evacuations continue in Afghanistan as strangers help new arrivals in America and beyond.
So I think the people were there ready to do whatever was needed.
Plus, full approval.
Today is really an important day as the FDA has approved the first COVID-19 vaccine.
Could the Pfizer vaccine's new status boost public confidence, and will it open the door for more mandates? Stormy weather.
Houses are washed away, knocked off foundations, just totally gone.
The cross-country cleanup begins. And precious cargo.
I've helped deliver lots of babies, so hopefully this one wouldn't be any different.
The story of a newborn's unlikely arrival. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
A possible game changer in the fight against COVID-19. Good evening, I'm Jenna Browder.
Good evening, I'm John Jessup. Welcome to Faith Nation. Well, Pfizer's COVID vaccine has won full approval from the Food and Drug Administration for anyone 16 and over. The FDA's acting commissioner calling it a pivotal moment for the country.
President Biden also hailing it as a major milestone. CBN senior international correspondent George Thomas joins us with tonight's top story. George?
Well, Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla calling today's full approval confirmation of the safety and efficacy of his company's vaccine. Since Pfizer's two-dose shot was authorized for emergency use back in December, more than 188 million have been administered so far in the U.S. Biden moved quickly to use the FDA's action as an opportunity to once again encourage unvaccinated Americans to get the shot.
If you're one of the millions of Americans who said that they will not get the shot until it has full and final approval of the FDA, it has now happened. The moment you've been waiting for is here. It's time for you to go get your vaccination and get it today.
The current FDA head calling the agency's decision a milestone.
This is a pivotal moment for our country in the fight against the pandemic. The public can be confident that this vaccine meets the FDA's gold standards for safety, effectiveness, and manufacturing quality.
So far, 60% of adults 18 and over have been fully vaccinated. That leaves more than 80 million folks out there eligible to get the shot. New York City's mayor wants to see those numbers shrink, announcing today vaccine mandates for the nation's largest school system.
This will require that all staff of every kind, principals, teachers, custodians, food service, you name it, needs to have at least one dose by September 27th.
With Pfizer's approval, the U.S. Surgeon General says he expects more mandates from private businesses, colleges, and even local and state governments. A survey back in June found that 3 in 10 unvaccinated adults would be more likely to get the shots if a vaccine were fully approved.
For businesses and universities that have been thinking about putting vaccine requirements in place in order to create safer spaces for people to work and learn, I think that this move from the FDA, when it comes, will actually help them to move forward.
The virus continues to rage around the country, accelerated by the Delta variant. Dr. Joseph Veron of Houston's United Memorial Medical Center saying the health system in his city has collapsed.
The never-ending story. And their biggest question is, when is this going to stop?
He says right now, 33 of the city's 35 hospitals have stopped taking new patients.
People talk about the collapse of the medical system, and I believe that in this, the largest medical city in the world, we have gotten to that collapse. Because if you have a heart attack, or if you have a stroke, you are out of luck, because most of the beds allocated for those kinds of patients are being occupied for patients that have COVID.
Pretty dire statistics there. Daily COVID cases, by the way, now average around 137,000. That is up 237% in the last month. One note, by the way, the FDA approval also means the military will now up the timeline for mandating vaccinations. We're expected to hear more guidance on that within days. John and Jenna, back to you guys.
All right, George, thank you. Well, noticeably not mentioned at the president's news conference today, Afghanistan. It's been just over a week since Kabul fell to the Taliban. Right now, there are 5,800 U.S. troops on the ground helping Americans and our allies evacuate.
That's right, Jenna. The situation there remains precarious as the United States inches closer to its August 31st deadline, and with the Taliban drawing a red line. CBN National Security Correspondent Caitlin Burke has more.
According to the Pentagon, coordination with the Taliban has allowed the U.S. to widen the perimeter around Kabul airport, providing additional security to those trying to evacuate. This comes as President Biden has said that U.S. forces will remain in Afghanistan until every American who wants to leave has gotten out.
There's discussions going on among us and the military about extending. Our hope is we will not have to extend, but there are going to be discussions, I suspect, on how far along we are in the process.
A Taliban spokesman says it would be a mistake for U.S. forces to remain beyond the agreed-upon deadline.
President Biden announced this agreement that until 31st of August they would withdraw all their military forces. So if they extend it, that means they are extending occupation. If they are intent on continuing the occupation, so it will provoke a reaction.
The Pentagon maintains that the focus is still to be out by the end of the month.
The goal is to get as many people out as fast as possible.
The U.S. has evacuated and facilitated the evacuation of approximately 37,000 people since August 14th, with nearly 11,000 people getting out Sunday. Biden bolstered resources by activating the Civil Reserve Air Fleet over the weekend. The little-used program, created after World War II, increases our airlift capacity by enlisting commercial airlines for help.
These Civil Reserve flights will be helping facilitate the safe movement of people from staging locations and transit centers like Qatar or Germany to the United States or to a third country. None of them will be landing in Kabul.
The situation in Kabul remains dangerous. Biden warning of possible attacks on the U.S. operation.
But every day we have troops on the ground. These troops, innocent civilians at the airport, face the risk of attack from ISIS-K from a distance, even though we're moving back the perimeter significantly.
As a defense, aircraft are releasing flares to distract any heat-seeking missiles that may be targeting planes carrying evacuees. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says the U.S. is consulting with the Taliban on every aspect of what's happening in Kabul right now. He says they've developed a way to get Americans who want to leave safely to the airport. And as far as our Afghan allies go, he says the U.S. will continue to work to get them out of Afghanistan even after our forces have left. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris is in Southeast Asia tonight, though not escaping the issue of Afghanistan. Today, she weighed in for the first time publicly on the messy U.S. troop withdrawal. Harris says the U.S. must maintain its focus on evacuating Americans and vulnerable Afghans, and that there will be a time later to analyze the context of the withdrawal. Those comments coming at a news conference in Singapore. The vice president's trip is focused on strengthening U.S. ties with Southeast Asia.
House lawmakers are back in Washington, D.C. See why some expect the weeks ahead to be a political game of chicken.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Well, welcome back. Lawmakers are returning to Washington, briefly interrupting their August recess to forge ahead with the president's economic agenda, including a massive bipartisan infrastructure bill.
And the next 2 days expected to be what some call a political game of chicken between moderate and progressive Democrats in the House. CBN's Tara Merchner has the latest.
A House procedural vote is the next test for President Biden's sprawling economic agenda. The Senate has already passed both bills, a $1.2 trillion infrastructure agreement and a $3.5 trillion budget that would expand the social safety net while hiking taxes on upper earners. Coaxing her caucus in a letter, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi insists delays will put the party's policy goals for President Biden's transformative vision and historic progress in jeopardy.
The vision is to build back better.
The Rules Committee will come to order.
House lawmakers are back in D.C. after a shorter than usual August recess. The White House endorsing Pelosi's plans for a procedural vote that would advance the infrastructure, social spending, and voting rights plan to be followed by a budget resolution.
When you take this bill together with the American Rescue Plan and the reconciliation bill that's getting underway, we are implementing once-in-a-generation policies that will change people's lives for the better. Housing, clean energy, dealing with the climate crisis.
If her party members stick together, it would allow those measures to pass without a Republican vote.
This is the first hearing it's had in the House of Representatives, and it's going straight to the floor with no amendments by any Democrats or Republicans. I think that that's a broken process.
That party unity, however, could be loosening. Fearing the budget plan could be scaled back, Pelosi and progressives want that bill passed first. 9 moderate Democrats, concerned over the $3.5 trillion price tag, are threatening to vote against it unless the bipartisan infrastructure bill is first in line. 2 weeks ago, the Senate passed that $1.2 trillion infrastructure plan with help from 19 Republican votes.
It's been a long and winding road, but we have persisted, and now we have arrived.
But the massive budget spending plan has zero GOP support, meaning it could be killed by Democrats. To win over both progressives and centrists, Pelosi has outlined a strategy to vote on the 2 bills only after the Senate has approved both of them. To pull it off, she could only lose 3 House votes in the process. In Washington, Tara Mergener, CBN News.
And joining us now is Nathan Gonzalez, editor and publisher of Inside Elections and an elections analyst at Roll Call. Nathan, welcome. So let's start there with infrastructure. What are the chances those 9 more moderate Democrats stand firm, especially with the backing of Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema? Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she's kind of known for being masterful at really tightening the grips when she needs to.
Yeah, Jenny, you're right that she's good at her job. She has been good at her job as Speaker and getting the votes that she needs. But this is a good example that just because you're in the majority and in control doesn't mean that everything is easy. I think that these moderate Democrats who most of them are some of the most vulnerable Democrats in the House realize that they're going to get attacked for voting for the budget and a lot of the spending that comes along with that. So they want the infrastructure bill that has some things that they can take back to their constituents and say, this is what we got done. This is what we got accomplished. And so in the end, I want to be optimistic and say that, Democrats are going to get things, Congress is going to get things done that will help Americans. But until it's done, there's always a chance it won't pass.
Nathan, we are getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. This is an if and a very big if. Speaker Pelosi's plan fails. What does that mean for the Biden administration? Does it effectively mean that it's the end of the president's agenda?
Well, infrastructure was supposed to be the easy part. I mean, even going back to when President Trump was in office and Republicans had more of a say, infrastructure was supposed to be easy. And so the fact that this is so hard to get done, I think is telling that getting other pieces that might be more controversial or more polarizing, getting them done is going to be more difficult. So this is the window is closing to get things done because Republicans are very confident about 2022 and regaining some control in Washington.
Yeah, and when you look at the new census and think about redistricting, is it the Republicans who stand to benefit the most?
Republicans are in control of more states and redrawing more districts. The process has been delayed, and it's just getting started now that the Census Bureau released data about a week and a half ago. So the states are just starting to draw those lines. So Republicans have that advantage in redistricting, but they also could have the advantage based on the history of midterm elections or a voter and an electorate that might be souring on President Biden or souring on Democratic control of Congress. And so all of these things together could work to help Republicans regain the House and possibly even the Senate.
Yeah. Well, one thing that could really complicate Democrats and this administration's agenda, of course, Afghanistan. Nathan, you have an article out on rollcall.com that talks about Afghanistan and what it could mean for the 2022 midterms. You don't actually think it'll be one of the top issues. Explain that.
I don't think Afghanistan specifically, in part because we as Americans have very short attention spans. I mean, over the next year before we get to the midterms, there's going to be more natural disasters, more man-made events that just envelop the news and envelop the conversation. Also, in recent history, we just haven't had what I would call foreign policy elections where voters have said foreign policy is the most important thing to them. Again, I think as Americans, we tend to be selfish and focused on what's happening right in front of us at our kitchen tables, and oftentimes that's not foreign policy. And so I think where it could affect Biden and the Democrats is if it causes his job approval rating to drop, which his job approval rating has gone down over the last few days, because midterms tend to be a referendum on the incumbent president and the incumbent president's party. And so if he doesn't recover politically, then that could hurt Democrats in the House.
Nathan, we have a little less than a minute left. Joe Scarborough, an MSNBC host and former Republican congressman who left the GOP, laid out what his strategy would be if he were a Republican running in 2022. He says Republicans should focus on safety as Democrats seem to struggle to provide it, be it in Afghanistan or at the southern border or in their own cities. What are your thoughts about that being an effective strategy?
Well, we'll find out in 2022 whether it's an effective strategy, but I think it's clear that's the road the Republicans are going down. They saw in 2020 how using the defund the police message helped them overachieve or exceed expectations in the House. And now they're going to lump it all together, right? That President Biden makes America less safe. And that is how they're going to try to win back some of the suburban voters who went against Republicans, against President Trump, and get them back in the fold. And that's why we have elections, to figure out whether that's effective or not. But Republicans are absolutely going to use that message.
All right, Nathan Gonzalez with Inside Elections. Always good to see you. Thank you so much. Great insights.
Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you.
Severe weather swept through 2 areas of the United States this weekend. When we come back, the aftermath and recovery efforts underway.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Hi, I'm Terry Mewson. At CBN, we're here to pray for you all year long. But did you know that each fall, the entire staff of CBN sets aside a very special time to pray, especially for you? We've seen tremendous miracles happen as a result of these prayers. Please mail in or call us today with your prayer requests. No matter how big or small your need, we consider it a great privilege to pray for you.
Welcome back. Well, desperation in Haiti. The island experiencing widespread theft as humanitarians hand out food, water, and medicine. The 7.2 magnitude earthquake wiped out income sources for the masses there, forcing survivors to steal food and other essentials from distribution sites. First responders say security is now needed to protect humanitarian operations. The island's biggest needs are food, sanitation, and clean water technologies. More than 2,000 people died in the earthquake. Roughly 300 people are still missing. CBN's Operation Blessing is on the ground in Haiti. For more information on how you can help, visit ob.org.
Well, back here in the United States, crews are working to restore power to more than 140,000 homes after Tropical Storm Henri slammed the New England coast this past weekend.
Yeah, in Tennessee, historic flash flooding has killed at least 22 people. CBN's Mark Martin reports on these epic twin storms and their aftermath.
Henri is now a tropical depression lingering over the Northeast. The storm bringing wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour as it came ashore on the coast of Rhode Island Sunday, causing 100,000 power outages as it moved inland. But its worst damage might be yet to come. This tree almost fell on 2 homes.
He told me that it fell down, and I said, "No, sir." I thought he was lying. So when I came out here, I couldn't believe it, that it didn't hit anything.
Waves up to 19 feet slammed the New England coast. Farther south, residents of central New Jersey saw 8 inches of rain and floodwaters. Rescue workers carrying scores of people to safety. Meanwhile, in Tennessee, an historic flood disaster over the weekend. At least 22 people died after record-setting rainfall caused flash flooding. It happened about 75 miles southwest of Nashville in the cities of McEwen and Waverly.
Houses are washed away, knocked off foundations, just totally gone. Still people missing. Lots of cars are smashed up and gone.
Humphreys County saw 17 inches of rain in less than 24 hours. At least 20 people remained missing overnight. Rescuers believe the death toll will climb. Among the dead, 7-month-old twins. Their family says the floodwaters swept them out of their father's arms.
I would expect, given the number of fatalities we have seen so far, that we're going to see mostly recovery efforts at this point.
The flooding destroyed entire neighborhoods, lifting homes off their foundations. The waters also took out bridges and roads.
It started, it was raining all night, but when I got up at 4:30, it was starting to really flood, and it just happened so fast. By 6:30, we were on the roof of our house and hoping that we were going to make it.
Mark Martin, CBN News.
President Biden has approved disaster declarations in Tennessee, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Connecticut. The move opens the door for federal recovery aid for those states.
Well, uncertainties from COVID are causing the cost of shipping to skyrocket, all stemming from a disruption in supply chains across the world. Billions of dollars in inventory are sitting in warehouses as companies struggle to cover the cost of shipping. The bottleneck causing delayed deliveries and economic uncertainty while pushing inflation even higher.
Dollars worth of holiday inventory coming to the stores. No one's addressing how that product is getting to the stores. There aren't enough truck drivers. There's not enough cargo trains. So it becomes a logistics issue.
Economists predict the situation will worsen before it gets any better, adding that the holiday season will put added stress on an already strained system.
Still ahead, a special arrival. How an evacuation plane leaving Afghanistan became a delivery room.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Download the CBN News app. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Get the CBN News app today.
Finally tonight, a bright spot amid the chaos in Afghanistan.
A plane evacuating people from the war-torn country wound up being used to deliver a newborn. U.S. medical personnel delivered a baby girl in the aircraft's cargo bay upon landing in Germany Saturday after an Afghan refugee went into labor.
It was a little bit of panic. It was a little bit of shock, but I was also trusting in my training and that I've helped deliver lots of babies, so hopefully this one wouldn't be any different.
The mother and daughter were both transported to a nearby hospital. Both are reportedly safe and in good condition. Jenna, I don't think you could have said it any better. Definitely a bright spot in all the news about Afghanistan.
Yeah, I'm so glad we included this story. You know, it's a lot that's happening over there, and so it's nice to see something a little more positive.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for watching tonight's edition of Faith Nation.
Have a great evening.